Hello everyone, this is the Sports Spiral, and in today's video I'm going to react to the games I picked last week for college football week 12. There's some great games this week and also some surprises. And in advance, I'm going to say that I was 15-2 this week with my picks. I did an excellent job. One of the games I picked was postponed. That was the Florida State vs. Clemson game. So let's start with a Friday game. Louisville vs. Syracuse. Both of these teams were struggling, but Louisville gets the win 30-0. Cunningham does throw 2 interceptions but has a touchdown, and they are able to pitch the shutout. Cunningham also rushes for 21 yards and a touchdown to carry the Cardinals to a win. Let's move on to Saturday, where Florida struggled against Vanderbilt in the first half. Kent Shields was looking real good against the struggling Gators defense, but Kyle Trask had a better second half. Still threw for 3 touchdowns, despite having a not as good game as he usually does, but still 38-17 for the Gators. Their defense still looks like it's quite desperate, and yeah, the Gators are able to come with the win there. Let's move on to the game of the week, Ohio State versus Indiana. I thought Indiana would keep it much closer than people expected, and they did. They gave Ohio State a fight. At some point, I think they were down like 42-21. They were down big, but they came back. The final 42-35. They can't quite pull off the upset, but they do a great job, and Indiana should be proud of what they've done. Michael Penix Jr., 27-51 for 491 yards, 5 touchdowns, and an interception. And Justin Fields, 300 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 3 interceptions. So quite a few interceptions here. I'm surprised that Fields threw 3 interceptions. That just shows how good Indiana is. And then it also showed that Ohio State's defense might be struggling a little, as Michael Penix Jr. threw for 5 touchdowns. Freifogel for Indiana, 218 yards and 3 touchdowns for the receptions for him. And there's also some rushing yards involved for Ohio State that gave them the win. Teague rushed for 169 and 2 touchdowns. Fields rushed for 78 and a touchdown. And the rushing yards, it's what gave Ohio State the win. But Indiana has to be really happy about where they are. Next up is Coastal Carolina versus Appalachian State. I knew this would be one of Coastal Carolina's harder games. They are a smaller team, but Coastal Carolina, they were playing close with Appalachian State for the first part of the game, but they pull ahead towards the end. McCall throws for 2 touchdowns, and they picked off Thomas 3 times to seal the victory. The Chanticleers are still undefeated. Then let's move to the LSU-Arkansas game. I thought the Razorbacks had the better offense here, but no, they apparently do not. They lose this one 27-24. Both of these teams aren't doing the greatest. Finley throws for 2 touchdowns for the Tigers, and they are able to pick off Felipe Franks once. So, yeah, LSU, that's going to be a bit of a boost of morale for that team beating the Razorbacks. Let's head on to Cincinnati versus UCF, where UCF keeps it very close with Cincinnati. They lose 36-33, much closer than I expected. Riddle throws for 338 yards and 2 touchdowns for the Bearcats, and Dylan Gabriel 3 touchdowns and an interception for the Knights, but that's much closer than I expected. And I think this game being close kind of wipes wipes out their playoff chances, or at least takes a huge hit to them. So, yeah, I don't know how much they look for how big the wins are in the college football playoff rankings that are coming out tonight, very soon. So, yeah. Next up is Northwestern versus Wisconsin, and Northwestern, good defense, and they show that Graham Marks is a freshman. A touchdown and 3 interceptions for Marks. He throws for 230. It's looking good in the other games, but those are against bad teams. And Ramsey throws for 2 touchdowns to seal the win for Northwestern, and Northwestern is probably going to move real close to the top 10 here in the CFP rankings. So then let's move on to a bit of a scare for Oregon. They don't lose the game, but very close, 38-35. Show has been looking pretty good for the Ducks, 3 touchdowns in this game. But yeah, they allowed 35 points, and their defense is not looking the best this year. I don't know that they should be ranked so high, but it's not going to matter. I don't think they'll make it into the playoff with the way they're playing and with their weak schedule. Then we have Iowa versus Penn State. Penn State is still winless. Petrus throws for 186 for the Hawkeyes, and Clifford 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. Penn State's just not looking good. They just need to hang in there and just keep trying to get wins. They actually have an easy game next week, or an easier game versus Michigan. So 2 struggling teams that have been doing pretty well in the past few years. Next up is a lopsided affair that I did not think it was going to be by this much, by 60 for Alabama. 63-3 Alabama. It's looking absolutely fantastic. Wilson, it's picked off one time for Kentucky, and this Alabama defense looking much better. They definitely look like the best team in the country now. So there's some special teams that won this game as well, because Mac Jones only threw for 2 touchdowns and an interception, so not all too spectacular there. But yeah, Alabama, a great win for them. Then we have Iowa State versus Kansas State. A shutout for Iowa State, 45-0. Kansas State was looking good in some spots, but they're really struggling now. Purdy throws for 3 touchdowns. Hall rushes for 2 touchdowns. And Iowa State is looking like the best team in the Big 12. Next up, we have Auburn versus Tennessee. Auburn obviously had that big win versus LSU, much bigger than people expected. And they do put up a fair amount of points, not as much as I expected, 30-17. They were able to pick off Guarantano one time, but the rush defense does not look very good. Gray rushed for 173 yards and a touchdown for the Volunteers, and Bigsby is kind of shaken up for the Tigers, so I don't know if he will be able to play next week versus Alabama. Nix threw for a touchdown and an interception, so not looking quite as good as versus LSU. So that would definitely be maybe a telltale sign of a rough game versus Alabama next week. Okay, Georgia and Mississippi State, much closer than I expected. Both of these teams have found a quarterback now. Rogers for Mississippi State throws for 336 and a touchdown. And I predicted that Georgia was going to find a quarterback in this game, and they do. JT Daniels throws for 401 yards and 4 touchdowns, but suddenly the defense is not looking the best, and Zamir White only rushes for 21 yards and 11 carries. So Georgia looking like a much different team now. Next up, we have Oklahoma versus Oklahoma State, another key game of this week, and Oklahoma absolutely shattered the Oklahoma State Cowboys, 41-13. Rattler throws for 4 touchdowns, and Oklahoma's looking quite good again. Ramondre Stevenson rushes for 141 yards, and Sanders 10 of 19 for 97 yards and a pick for the Cowboys. And Oklahoma State was looking good in some points. Oklahoma was looking bad in some points. But now Oklahoma looks better than Oklahoma State for sure. They beat them, and they look like one of the best teams in that Big 12 conference. Next up, we have NC State versus Liberty. I thought NC State could slip by Liberty, and they do. 15-14, a low-scoring game. They send Liberty to their first loss. Willis throws for 2 touchdowns and 3 interceptions. And on the other side of the football for NC State, Hockman, 14 of 27, 154, and an interception. And the Wolfpack gets the win there. Next up, we have Missouri versus South Carolina, another low-scoring game. And for Missouri, Basilak throws for 203 yards, a touchdown, and an interception. And that sends Missouri back to 500. They are 3-3. Then we have the last game I'm going to talk about, and that is USC versus Utah. I thought USC was going to need another rally to win this game, but they do not. Slovis throws for 2 touchdowns and an interception, and they forced Utah quarterback Bentley into 2 interceptions to get the win. And USC is definitely not looking like they're playoff capable or even top 10 capable, but I think they will be in the top 25 if they can hang on throughout the season. So that is going to do it for this video. Please make sure to subscribe, like, and stay tuned for more videos. I've got like 3 videos coming up in the next 3 days, so stay tuned for that. It's going to be the NFL weekend review, and then we got the picks for next week. So yeah, that's going to do it for this video. This is the Sports Spiral. Bye.